from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And today I thought I would shoot a quick, hopefully I can keep it that way, video on what I have dehydrating today. Now I'm not going to go over all the medicinal benefits of all these things. I just wanted to show you what I've got going on because I thought people would be interested. I've got a little bit of rosemary over here. I've got my first collection of strawberry leaves, and yes, I did say strawberry leaves. Now one thing you need to know if you get into collecting your strawberry leaves is you want to, I usually just take maybe 1 or 2 sets of the 3 leaf clusters from each real healthy plant, and I don't try not to take any more than that, especially as they got berries coming in. And also you either want to eat them completely raw or completely dehydrated. You do not want to dehydrate them somewhere, have them somewhere in between. It's I can't remember what it is. It was a long time ago I read about it, but it can cause some health issues, which is really funny, but that you can have it raw or fully dehydrated, but not somewhere in between. It just, there's something that happens in that in-between stage that you want to avoid when it comes to dehydrating. So I've eaten them raw. I think they're kind of good. They have a very green flavor to them, if you know what I mean. They taste better than blackberry leaves. I tried eating a raw blackberry leaf and it was just kind of bitter and blah. And these to me aren't bitter. They're just very green, and I like the flavor okay. The dehydrated leaves, you can add them to your tea blends, or you can do what I do and I just put it in my mixed greens blend like I do with my stinging nettle, my dandelion leaves, and certain other things. And I have videos on how I do the mixed greens blend, a couple of them. And then of course, speaking of that, I have right here a nice little collection of dandelion leaves that I'm dehydrating. A few dandelion flowers, they're starting to slow down already on the flower production, so I'm really trying to keep up on it as much as I can. I've got some woolly lamb's ear. The woolly lamb's ear is still pretty young, but I'm hoping that by consistently pecking at it as I go, getting these leaves as they're coming in, I can realize a lot more leaves off of them than I did last year. And especially since I did downsize the number of plants I have, because they can sort of take over. And if you are interested in the benefits of woolly lamb's ear, I'll go ahead and link to that video right up here. And then I also have some feverfew, and this is a great, the number 1 benefits of the feverfew, or the 3 top benefits, are the, helping with digestion. It is a bitter, very bitter, and helping with pain and inflammation. And so I like to keep a lot of this on hand. And if you take a smell, if you sniff it, if you're curious what it tastes like and you see it growing but you're afraid to try it, just take a good whiff of it, and the scent, that's how it tastes, but worse. So then over here, I'm also just getting started on my marshmallow leaves, and they are very young still. They will get about 3 times this big, but again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm harvesting some of the leaves back so I can see better production, even though I have a ton of marshmallow plants. I have a lot. In fact, that one that we dug up, remember the big root? I'll link to that video right up here, that big huge root, that one we had to dig up to get out of the way. Well, clearly there was a piece of root left behind because there's another plant coming up where that was. So that's fine with me. I may have to dig it up and move it, but that's cool. And then over here I have some comfrey. Just getting started on collecting my comfrey leaves. They will get much bigger than this. In fact, I have a couple of pretty good sized ones here. But again, same thing. I'm just trying to get going on this so that I can get as much put away as possible. The comfrey I mentioned in one video. I don't have a video on just comfrey. I do plan on doing one later in the season about the benefits of comfrey. We don't use it internally. Some people do. There's a lot of debate on that back and forth. I think one thing is there's a difference between the ones with the white flower and the purple flower. We have the purple flower one, which I think is the one that is okay to ingest, but I cannot remember. And even then you got to be careful about how much you're ingesting it. But I grow it mostly for the purpose of using externally. It is known to help heal broken bones. So what I'm planning on doing with some of my bigger leaves as they come in is to freeze them and rather than dehydrate them. The rest I will dehydrate and use in putting in my soaps, in skin creams and stuff like that, because they're really beneficial for skin care. But also they make a wonderful green compost, good fodder for your animals, and we don't have anything but chickens and dogs, but I do plan on feeding some to the chickens. Chickens love comfrey, and it's really healthy for them, as well as the borage. So you can do chop and drop with these, which is good to know because comfrey can take over and so can borage. But you can just keep chopping and dropping and it will feed your soil. Excellent, excellent for the soil. And then the marshmallow leaves, I do have a video on what I use these for, the benefits of marshmallow, and I'll try to link to that right up here if I remember. Now, back to the dandelions, I want to talk just a little bit, is that I think some people, all of a sudden, my video that I did over a year ago on dandelion roots, collecting dandelion roots, just exploded, and it's been getting a whole bunch of views. So I've got a lot of new people coming in that assume that because in that particular video I didn't save the flowers and the leaves that I was harvesting because I knew I'd be getting a lot more. I preferred to use it at that time for compost because of my busy schedule, because these also make good compost for your garden. And now that I have chickens, throw them to the chickens too. But anyway, I've actually been harvesting dandelion leaves and flowers long before I started getting into collecting the dandelion roots. Now, I prefer to collect the roots out of my garden because they dig up really easy. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll go ahead and link to it up here. I also have a live show I did just on dandelions and their health benefits. So I do understand every part of the plant has its medicinal purposes or health purposes. They're very good for you all the way around. They just, I mean, the list goes on and on about dandelions, and I don't have time to get into that today, but you can check out some of my other videos on that. But one more thing I wanted to say about collecting the roots. They are actually going to have the most benefit if you wait until the fall to dig them up. Around here, it's easier to do in the spring, and that's why I like collecting them in the spring. But this year, I'm holding off. I'm going to try to hold off and see if I can get them somewhere in that. I got to hit the time just right before the heavy rains come, but while I don't have so many things growing in the garden at the same time, because I also like having some dandelions in the garden because those long tap roots help feed nutrients to the surrounding plants. And I don't want to inadvertently dig up one of, a beet or a carrot or something that isn't ready while I'm digging up the dandelion roots. So that's one of the reasons why spring is easiest before everything else starts growing, and then knowing I'll still have more dandelions growing in there. But I'm going to try this year, and then you don't want to do it when it's really rainy because around here everything turns to pure mud and it's just super messy, and that's why I prefer not to collect them in the fall. But just so you know, that's something I didn't think to say in that video when I was collecting them in the spring. And oh, and I have a few little pansies. I try to get a few every day. I usually pick them throughout the day as they're blooming just to keep up on them because I don't have as many pansy plants this year, and I may be, because they are kind of a pain, they're difficult to start from seed here. I'm going to see if I can kind of transition into using some of my other flowers more, like the dandelions, the calendula, and a lady, thank you, Amy or Amy, I'm not sure which way to pronounce her name. I think it's probably Amy because the way it's spelled, for sending me the viola or the violets. She sent me some live plants, and she also picked a whole bunch of violet flowers and leaves for me. And so I think those are gonna grow better here and keep coming back for me, because guess what? After she sent those, I actually found some little tiny plants growing in my front yard. And that's what it pays to stop. Years and years ago, I used to use that nasty stuff on my yard to keep the weeds out. But now that, for the past number of years, I've stopped doing that. Little by little, I've been seeing all these wonderful plants starting to grow in my yard besides just grass. And one of those I just discovered this year is the violets. And I was very excited to see that. Now, the plants she sent me are way bigger than mine. Mine, the leaves are really, really tiny, where her leaves are more like that. And so I did transplant a couple of the ones out of my yard to see if I can get them to get bigger somewhere else in my garden. But I also transplanted the plants she sent me, and they're doing well. And so I'm going to keep an eye on them, because violets, wild violets, have very much the same medicinal properties as your pansies, because they are related. They're both violas. So anyway, I might kind of head in that direction as far as that goes, if they grow better and I don't have to worry about buying plants every year, because that's what I usually end up having to do. Anyway, so that's what's going on today. I'm going to get these put on my trays. I already sprayed them down with vinegar, homemade vinegar, let them sit, rinsed them off, and now I'm going to put them on my dehydrating trays, and we'll be putting these to use in all kinds of things. And by the way, in case I didn't say it, one of the things I use the the dandelion leaves for dried up is that also goes in my mixed greens blend with the strawberry leaves and grape leaves and so on. And then the woolly lamb's ear dried up I use in teas. Okay, hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.